The revolutionary audio docuseries, hosted by Sean Ryan.
They're called PSYOPs.
Is now available for free on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Target Intelligence, PSYOP, an Ironclad original.
And now, back to our program.
So as an example, you want to know who killed JFK? In the 60s, when he was killed, who killed him? We said it was the height of the Cold War, so it was the Russians and the Cubans did it. In the 70s, Watergate hits, and we don't trust government anymore. So who killed in the 70s? JFK is who you just said. It was the CIA, it was the LBJ, it was an inside job. In the 80s, the Godfather movies peak. Who killed JFK? It was the mob did it.
So what is it, aliens now?
Right now, you know what it is? It is UFO theories.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Change Agents, an Ironclad original presented by Firecracker Farm. I'm joined today by Brad Meltzer, a best-selling author and historian whose work focuses on topics such as secrecy, American history, and assassinations. Let's dive in. I mean, that's a great kicking off point. The subject matter that you write about, I was reading through my show notes and I'm like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. But it also can get slippery because people in the old, actually, I can't even say old. Historically, I think people would look at the type of work that you do and they would try to label it conspiracy theories in an attempt to devalue the information that you had. It was used as a pejorative. And I think that a little bit of that is breaking through. So I'm fascinated by this stuff, but it is interesting how people try to roll legitimate information into legitimate conspiracy theories that have no basis whatsoever. And it muddies the water and it makes it really hard to separate the wheat from the chaff.
It is. And listen, it used to be that a conspiracy, when you talk about a conspiracy, there's one thing you were trying to get at is the truth. It's not the case anymore, right? And in fact, when we did Decoded on the History Channel, the very first thing they told me is they said, on shows like this, the less facts you have, the more scary music you play. And I was like, that's great. That's friggin' hysterical. I never want to do that show. I said, I never want to do that show. I have no interest in that. I said, doing the boom, 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 boom. And they said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to find the truth. And to their credit, they let me. We used to let people come on and have their crazy talk about whatever their crazy thing was. And then I would come on the end and say, this person is nonsense. This is nonsense. Here's the actual facts. And that was the goal of the show, was to find truth. Because today we have access on our phones to more information. We have the Alexandria Library on our phones. We walk around with it every day. But the hardest thing for us to find to this day is truth. But what has happened is exactly what you just said, is conspiracy has become a thing that's better to obscure everyone. I think the biggest, I hate the fact that Decoded, people will come up to me and say, they forgot the ending. They just wanted to hear the craziest person. They come up to me like, I love what that person said. I'm like, that person was a wackadoo. Like, I'm sorry we gave them airtime because you are so confused and want to hear your thing that you're ignoring the actual reality. And I think...
Why do you think that is?
Yeah,
why
it's
do
a
you
good
think
question.
Somebody...
Andy, that is the right question. Here's why. Is because conspiracies are mirrors. They show you what you're afraid of. So as an example, you want to know who killed JFK? It's pretty simple.
The CIA.
Well, let's do it one by one. In the 60s, when he was killed, who killed him? We said it was the height of the Cold War, so it was the Russians and the Cubans did it. Because those are our great enemies in the height of the Cold War. In the 70s, Watergate hits, and we don't trust government anymore. So who killed in the 70s? JFK is who you just said. It was the CIA, it was the LBJ, it was an inside job. In the 80s, the Godfather movies peak. Who killed JFK? It was the mob did it. So if you want to know who killed JFK, it's whoever America's most afraid of at that moment in time. And that's why...
So what is it, aliens now?
Right now, you know what it is? It's actually, I'm not joking. If you Google it and check it out, is UFO theories. Because UFOs are back, right?
Aliens or AI. Somehow AI killed him, even though it was in the 60s.
And that's the thing about conspiracies, is they're just mirrors to what we're afraid of. So you show me your favorite conspiracy and I'll show you who you are. And I say that simply to say is it's much easier to believe a giant conspiracy sometimes than to believe the truth. And that's the hardest part.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And think
on
of it
that.
this way, and this is why. think of Lee Harvey Oswald, right? I'm the first one to say we will never know what the truth is because Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald. There was questions that will never be answered that are good questions, right? What is Jack Ruby? How does he get into that police station that day with the most wanted guy? What is Lee Harvey Oswald doing in Russia, right? A Marine in Russia at the height of the Cold War for a month and nobody says a word? There are still pieces with the documents, and I've read through what's been released that we'll still never have answers to because Lee Harvey Oswald was murdered. But here's what my point is whether you believe there was another shooter or not, whether you believe there was someone backing him or not, it is much easier to believe that there was an entire giant conspiracy, that there were so many people that had to be in this moment, that there were so many plans that had to be made. That is a much more reassuring idea than to believe that one crazy guy could disrupt the entire planet on a single day. That is a scary thought. Whether you believe it or not is not the point. My point is simply, it's a scarier thought that one person can undo everything. And so as for our own evolutionary, where we're brought, we wind up traveling and trafficking toward the things that make us feel a little easier, which is it must be a grand plan.
Ladies and gentlemen, hot salt from Firecracker Farm is the real deal. It's not just heat, it's flavor that elevates everything that you cook. The best thing to happen to food since fire. That's a bold statement, but I'm going to go ahead and agree with that. It's delightful. One of the best things about this brand is there's a real person behind it. His name is Alex, and he makes these in small batches, so it's not always easy to get. You don't want to miss out. All of the flavors are great. I have tried all of them. You really can't go wrong. Seriously, try it on everything. Steaks, vegetables, everything in between. If you like milder heat, mix in some sea salt to dilute it. This is a choose your own adventure. You can go direct from the push button dispenser, or you can dilute to hit that flavor profile that you're looking for. The best way that you can help this show is to help Alex and his small family business by grabbing some hot salt and trying it for yourself. So go to Firecracker Farm and use the code Ironclad for 15% off of your first order. Alex would also like me to thank you, the audience, for giving his small business a shot. I'm telling you right now, head over to Firecracker Farm, pick something out. I honestly don't think that you can go wrong. It's an amazing product founded by a very cool person. The backstory behind it is legit, and it's going to make your food taste better. You know, what you just described about Kennedy, the parallels between that and the desire towards the conspiracy couldn't be a more direct tie to what happened with Charlie Kirk. I was fascinated and disheartened by even people from my own community, the information that they were putting out, the things that they were latching onto. And a little bit, I think, is that has shifted in the lexicon of these people are content creators, and they realize that something controversial can build on top of that and they can create content. But the stickiness of some of these ideas that objectively I'm looking at from a distance, like, this is ridiculous. The way it was grabbing people's attention. And then some people reached out and essentially said largely the same thing. Well, the conspiracy and me digging into this, it makes me feel like I am actually doing something and not helpless.
It's a reaction to fear, right? That's exactly right. And I saw that, and obviously you have this terrible tragedy and this family that's suffering, and you still have people who are telling their followers there's more to the thing. You want to know why? Because that's reassuring. It's what you just said. It makes me feel good. And by the way, the other thing, and to me, this is the grand conspiracy, is the reason why those grow is not just our own fears, but because that's what the algorithm feeds. The algorithm doesn't feed your happiness. The algorithm on social media, guess why politicians want you angry? Guess why cable news wants you angry? Because angry people vote and angry people watch. They're great for ratings. And when you're on social media, angry people scroll. So the more they can make you upset and angry, the more they got your eyes, baby. That's all they're after. They just want you to sit and scroll and scroll. And when you do that, and by the way, it's great for ratings. It's great for people who say, so why are you seeing all these theories pop up? Is simply because it gives people the one thing you ought to always follow, which is the money.
Yeah. It's interesting on the algorithm too, because people want to say and believe that they have no hand in their algorithm. And the reality is the algorithm is not a guy twisting his mustache. It's a computer program feeding you what it is that you engage with. And you can very actively tweak your algorithm to show you more of what you engage with. And you can avoid certain things. And I've done this experiment on my own, but you are fighting against a waterfall cascading down on top
That's
of
right.
you.
That's right.
And yeah, so you have a hand in it, but let's just say you are trying to
Right,
seize the high ground while
you're
fighting
pushing
uphill.
water, right? Because the
Yeah.
algorithm, let's be very clear, the algorithm, if they wanted to, could feed you stuff that makes you happy. The
100%.
algorithm could. You know what? You know why they don't? It's bad for business. Because if you're happy, you won't scroll. You'll go outside. So eventually, good luck, man. I'm fighting it. I look at mine. I fight mine all
Yeah.
the time, and I see some, but stuff comes up. That Charlie Kirk
Yeah.
stuff you mentioned came up on my feed. I'm like, oh man, here we go. Like I see it, and
Yeah.
it is you're fighting. Again, these are, and I agree with what you said. It's not the shadowy government. It's not the so and so but it's just money. It's just the pure money of these companies. And they realized, they tested it. It is optimized. They've said, okay, we can put the truth out there and we can make it easy and we can give everyone happy. And we'll get cats hanging from trees saying, hang in there. And then people didn't stay that long. They got bored with it because TV was better. But then they were like, put in some crazy ass stuff in there and something that's shocking, right? They'll tell you, go on anything that says, how do I make my content more interactive and get more people? And it says, shock them at the beginning. Guess what
thumbnails.
That means? Lie to you, exaggerate. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And as long, I think what we have to do for our population right now is make sure people understand that. And that's why I say to people, if you are watching just one thing, your Twitter feed, okay? If you're watching just one podcast, no offense to anyone here. If you're watching just one show, whether it's mine or anyone else's, whether you're watching just Fox News or just CNN or just MSNBC, you are not an informed person. You are not, right? You have to realize that all these things are designed by design to make you and give you what you want and make you angry so you keep watching. And I encourage everyone, including myself, and I fight this every day, go watch the opposite side. Go watch the opposite. It'll make you frigging crazy. You're going to be so pissed so quickly. I get pissed so quickly. Go find the opposite side. And you'll see that, you know what? On the average, and I'm not talking about the extreme and the extreme, but on average, American citizens are kind, nice people. We all want the same thing. We want our families to be safe. We want to find love. We want to find happiness. And we are constantly being pushed against each other to fight and hate each other because it's good for business. And that to me is a bad thing. It's one of the worst things going on right now. That to me is the grand conspiracy of it all.
I could not agree more. Yeah, those are my feelings too. And even absent evidence, that is just from like every fiber of my being, that is the direction I feel like we're being pushed.
And listen, that's going to be the great war in my head that we're going to be writing about in 20 years, is just watching how we got through this. And the question is, can we come together? I was sitting with President Bush with W and asking him, like, I asked President Clinton when I was with him. I'll ask any president I see. I'm like, you were the president. How do we get together now? Nobody's got an answer. Nobody.
Yeah.
And I
do think we'll figure it out. Yeah, I think we'll figure it out.
Oh, we'll get there. Everything gets figured out.
Might be an interesting journey of left and rights along the way. Maybe
we're going to have to fight a lot. I mean, people are going to have to fight a lot. That's what's going to happen until they realize. I mean, why in the Civil War, there's at some point where people are like, man, this was probably not, we're fighting brother against brother here. No one wins in that battle.
I agree. How did you first get interested in this type of stuff? National secrets, counterintelligence, the things that you've written about are fascinating.
Yeah. For me, when I was, when I was younger, my dad, this is a weird way to say it, but my dad lost everything. 39 years old, lost everything, had nothing left. And we moved down to Florida, and I used to play this game where I'd get on my bicycle and I would just ride as fast as I could. I was in my teens, and I would just pretend someone was chasing me. That was the game. That is such an unhealthy game for a teenager to play. Like, where does that come from, right? Like, where does that fear? But that's what I loved. I loved that idea of like what was out there. My dad loved All the President's Men. That was his favorite movie. And my dad loved anything with big boobs and like he was not a sophisticated guy, had no education, nothing, but like he loved All the President's Men. And I remember that scene in I'll say it again for the second time, Follow the Money, which is not what Deep Throat ever said. That was created by the screenwriters for the movie. It's not real at all. But I remember watching that as a kid and being like, man, there's some shit's going down in Washington, D.C., and that's interesting to me. And then the truth is I started writing my thrillers, and U.S. presidents started reading them. I got a letter from President Bush Senior 41. I got one from Bill Clinton. Got invited to the White House to go to the president's private dining room. I'm not talking about where the tour is, but upstairs in the residence where even the Secret
Oh,
Service
wow.
can't go. And in fact, I never really tell the story, but I'll tell it whatever because you're awesome. And I never tell a story. But right before President Bush Sr. passed away, they were asking some of his favorite writers to come read to him on his deathbed. And I got the call. And I was in Kennebunkport, Maine with my wife, and the Secret Service brought us in. And they said, listen, he's going to fall asleep in 5 minutes. Read to him for 5 minutes. He's sleeping most of the day now. I said, no problem. I'm honored to be here. And I go there, and the Secret Service leave. It's just myself, my wife, President Bush, and his service dog, Sully, in the room. And I see he's got a stack of books on his desk. And one of them is one of the nonfiction books I wrote called The First Conspiracy, about a secret plot to kill George Washington at the start of the Revolutionary War. And I always loved this story. And he and President Clinton had both given me blurbs on the book. And I pulled it off it looked like it had been read. I can't tell you how many times. I said, sir, you want to read this one? And he said, mm-hmm. Because he couldn't speak anymore. He just said, mm-hmm, or uh-uh. And so I start reading. And sure enough, 5-10 minutes, he falls asleep. And the scene the chapter, I figure I'd get through the chapter that I brought to read to him was when George Washington has the Declaration of Independence read to his troops for the very first time. And I'm reading and I get to those words we all know. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And President Bush's eyes pop open and he's locked on me like he's got an infusion from the Declaration of Independence himself shot into his arm. Get to the end of the chapter, he's still wide awake. I'm like, sir, you want to read another chapter? Mm-hmm. Get to the end of that one. You want to read another, sir? Mm-hmm. And instead of being there for 5 or 10 minutes, I'm there for an hour. I say goodbye to him. I know I'm never going to see him again. I see what kind of shape he's in. But to be able to read about the very first president to the oldest living president at that point in time was one of the most humbling moments of my life. And that access that I got and the things they showed me and gave me was, it just, obviously I had that interest beforehand. I remember when I met President Bush, I said to him, I was doing research on Freemasons and conspiracy around Freemasons. And I found that Ronald Reagan had started a tradition where he left a note for President Bush in the Oval Office desk. And when Bush left the Oval Office, he left a note for Clinton. Clinton left one for W. Tradition exists to this day. And I said to President Bush, when he wrote me a letter saying he liked my books, I said, could you leave a secret note in those letters that no one would notice? I was like, could you do that? And he sends me, in the mail, I get an email that pops up from his staff, from the chief of staff, and says, President wanted you to have this. What's this? And he sent me the secret note that he left for Bill Clinton in the desk. If you've seen it on the internet, it's because he gave it to me and told me I could. I read it on Good Morning America, and his biographer was like, "Why'd you give it to Meltzer? I was your biographer. What are you doing?" And when I got it, I remember going, "Oh my gosh, he sent me a secret note." So I started reading every fourth letter of the thing that it spelled out, "Clinton, you suck." I was like, "What's in this note?" And all it said was "Listen, I'm with the country, and we're all rooting for you." It was an all-class act. But it just kind of gave me that entrance into this world of secrets and that I was exploring, but now exploring at a completely different level. And needless to say, I was long hooked.
What an incredible level of access, and what an honor to be able to spend that time with the president in his final moments. I feel like people forget that presidents are just people like you and I. I don't know if anybody is capable of doing that job. The pressure, you watch them age in dog years. It is unbelievable.
That's the line I always say, they age in dog years. You look at those pictures start to finish. It's unbelievable to me. And that's what we forget. We spend so much time hating and fighting and wanting to, take this one down if they don't agree with you. But you forget they're human beings. And the toll of that job and the consequence of that job. I remember, so one of them said to me that on the day you become president, you start reading files that you didn't know existed. And I'm not talking about the UFOs or we always want to go to the craziest thing of all. Yeah. And there are crazy things, but he says, but you realize that what is going on in your universe, and you know this, Andy, you know this personally, but what you think is going on in the universe is not everything that's going on in the universe. And on 100%. That day, your whole worldview gets bigger, where we're operating, the real things that are happening. And that is a giant weight that you will carry with you until you leave office and beyond. I'm sure a weight that you carry yourself to this day.
Yeah, I mean, different, but parallel in the same thing. I can see the analogy you're drawing between those two for sure. The one secret that I want to be released demonstrably is that aliens exist, because
Oh, I'm
I
obsessed
think,
with that one.
well, here's the thing. I think it would be so beneficial for our society to realize that we are a freckle on the universe's ass, and that there are such
100%.
greater things going on than just infighting. And you know what? Maybe we should come together here a little bit now that we know we're not alone, and see how far we can kick this marble down the road. I think it would be hugely beneficial
You
for
know,
society.
it's so interesting is that one of my favorite books ever is Watchmen by Alan Moore. And the end of the book, not to ruin it, but basically is about what happens if aliens attack and everyone comes together, right? Because we're like, we're going to do what you just said. We're going to come together. And then after COVID happened, I was like, we wouldn't. If aliens came down tomorrow, okay, and then disappeared or left us something or gave us something, or we had proof. If someone gave you the proof, right, it comes out. Half of America would say, I told you there were aliens, and the other half would say they lied. That is just how I'm convinced. I firmly believe it's mathematically impossible we are alone in this universe. But no matter what the proof will be, half of the country will believe it, and the other half will say it's fake. That's just where we are. That's the universe we're living in these days, and it's a shame. We cannot even agree on basic facts anymore.
I think that's why they haven't landed the vehicle on the freeway somewhere and been like, "What's up, everybody?" If I was an advanced species,
they just look at us and they're just like, "These guys are a headache. We'll come back when they're a bit more evolved." Like we're too early in our organism forms.
Yeah, they're watching a distance. Like, not yet, guys. I mean, they need about 2 more.
It's going to blow their mind. It's going to be more fighting. They're not good company right now.
Yeah, we'll come back. They're going to be okay. They're going to sort it, but they're in the ant phase, and we need to get them to more evolved. Yeah,
that's right.
Your most recent book, The Viper, about the witness protection program. Man, this is something, it's a term that I bet almost everybody has heard about, but knows nothing about. So I'm fascinated what you discovered about this program when you were writing it.
Yeah, so let's talk about The Viper. So I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you. So The Viper opens, man walks into a funeral home. He's got his favorite blue suit because he's got a terminal disease, and this is the suit he wants to be buried in. And here's the thing, Andy, is that when you go to your local bank, you open up a safety deposit box, paperwork gets filed. Government can track it. Same thing if you go to the UPS store and you open up a P.O. box there, government can track that too. But if you secretly sew something into the lining of your favorite suit, you hand that suit to your local mortician, you have the ultimate untraceable hiding spot. So the man goes back to his hotel. There's a guy with a gun waiting, says, "Where is it?" Man says, "I don't know what you're talking about." Shoots the man dead. That suit is still in the funeral home. You won't believe what's hidden inside it or who's about to find it. That's chapter 1 of The Viper. That's the plot. That's the hook. It's whatever. The fun for me is what you just said, is the research. So I've done the secret tunnels below the White House. I've done the labyrinth below the Capitol. One of the hardest places I've ever had to research is witness protection. Because you know why. Life and death is on the line there. And what's crazy is when I say witness protection, you immediately think, I'm going to guess, of mobsters, right? You think of Tony Soprano or the end of Goodfellas and Henry Hill. Like, you get a nose job and you go hide in the suburbs somewhere. But that's what witness protection was created for, is to take down the mob. And here's the thing, it worked. It actually worked. They had a lot of mobsters who came in, testified against other mobsters, and they got, shrunk the size of the mob and took it apart. But it's not like crime stopped. What happened is basically new criminals took their place. So gang members rose. And then at that point in time, lots of gang members took up part of witness protection. And then 9/11 hit, and we started chasing terrorists. So terrorists became a huge part of witness protection, make those cases. You want to know who one of the biggest groups is in witness protection right now? Accountants, because data is king.
I wouldn't guess that.
You would never guess it, but that's who's there now. Data is king in our world. The information is what is needed for these cases. And I promise, if you read The Viper, you'll never look at witness protection the same way again.
How do they decide who is eligible for it and not? Is this a risk to the individual, the value of the information, a combination of all of those things? I mean,
yeah, the marshals have that. It's a great stat they have. They say, and tell me what you think of the logic of this. The marshals say that they've never, ever lost a single person in witness protection, not one, as long as they completely listen to us. Okay, here's the problem. And the only people that go into witness protection, obviously, are people that can help the case. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make cases against the government. They're bringing in people who can testify or give evidence in some way. But here's the problem with witness protection, and which is an incredible program and nothing but respect. The Marshal Office is one of my favorites that I've ever worked with. The problem is in the people who are in there is you have to leave your life behind. You have to start over from scratch. And it used to be that someone comes to your town, moves next door to Andy, and you look and you say, okay, I'm either going to look at that guy and want to be his friend or I don't. I'm going to meet him or I won't. He's got a dog and we'll meet, or if he doesn't, we won't. And then he moved in your town. He was your neighbor and you didn't really think much of him. That was 20, 30 years ago. But now, new neighbor moves in. And if he seems a little whatever, you don't like this look, you got to put on Zillow how much he paid for his house. We can see what his Facebook page or Instagram page looks like. And if he doesn't have one, then that's more suspicious to me. These people look fake to me. Then you start looking to see if you can find if he has a record in a Google search, see if he's a pedophile in a Google search. We can find everything you want. So witness protection had to change. They couldn't just put a guy in Colorado and call it a day. Now they had to get good at making good digital backgrounds. They used to be good at making a passport. Now they got to make a good Facebook page. And what's fascinating and the hardest part is people don't want to leave their lives behind. They think they do, but then they realize they got to leave their mother-in-law behind. And some people that'll be a joy, but then they got to leave their friend behind, their sister behind. In some cases, they won't let you take your dog because people know your dog. And people think, you know what? I won't miss my dog. Yeah. You ever have a dog? You will.
Yeah, you will.
I promise you will. And then 6 months in, you're like, I just want to make a phone call and check up how they are. And guess what? You're not following the orders anymore and you're screwed. It's really hard to leave your life behind. And that's what kills people in witness protection.
Will they go to that level, a full digital bona fides all the way like fake?
There's no choice.
Wow.
You can't if I had someone who moved in next to you, okay, and you went and Googled them and couldn't find anything on the internet about them, I give you a fake name.
Immediately suspect. Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing more suspicious. It's better to have a fake Facebook page than to have none. So yeah, that's
unless they were like 80. If they were 85,
right. If you're old, I'll give you
okay.
that. Right. Yes. At a certain age, but in 20 years, good luck. Right. My kids, I can tell you that, there's a digital footprint, whether you like it or not. And it's going to be harder and harder because now, you and I had the advantage of, what's on the internet is basically what we put on the internet. My childhood, where I grew up, my friends were doing some bad shit all the time. And thank God that wasn't filmed, and there was stuff we got away with. And that was the good thing about life is that your worst day wasn't broadcast everywhere when you were a dumb teenager. And our kids today, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah. I've caught my kids so many times with, little things like Life 360, just an app that, and they've tried. Like my favorite, my daughter will hate this, but too bad. It's my show. She would go sit in her car, but she would park it as close to the school as possible in the hopes that the
would say she was in school.
The ring was close enough that it would overlap the building. And, Dad has some old school ways of just driving
good
over.
Luck on you. You got the wrong. My daughter's got the same dad. I'm like, you can do what you want, but this is my business now.
100%. So I was like, I'm like, first I text her like, hey, what's going on? I know she's not in class. No, I'm in class. I just have to use the Wi-Fi. And as I casually turn off my location services so she can't see me.
I just love you going stealth on your daughter, which by the way, I will not say that I haven't done. And also pisses my daughter off a lot to no ends, but that's, you're a dad, man, it's your daughter. Yeah. That's the way it goes. That's the price of admission. But I do think like when we think of witness protection in the future, good luck. Cause now everyone's there's kid pictures, there's things, and you got to get good at creating that. And so I love
there's the issue of biometrics too, and cameras everywhere. Unless you radically change, even the stuff that you and I have access to is, not even tied to the government. It's very good being able to be recognized. Yeah. Again, I don't know. I'm assuming they would do some type of, not a disguise, but I guess surgery if need be, because otherwise I don't know how you get away with that stuff. I know it's changed the world of espionage quite a bit, just the biometric places that they can fly through, because you're not going to beat it.
Oh, the guy who used to do, what am I blanking on his name? The guy who did our Iran stuff for the CIA, Bob, what's Bob's last name? Gosh, middle age is taking my brain, brother. Bob and his wife, the guys who, when we got all of the hostages out of Iran back in the day, Menendez, he's a great guy. I work with him. He helped me for years. And he used to tell me, which I've used in a book, he said, his secrets back then to fool people is he would give you a limp. You want to know how? By putting a rock in your shoe. And the rock in your shoe will give you the limp because you don't want to walk on the rock. And then he would do the nose thing. He was great with hair. He famously went into the Oval Office and sat with President Bush, and President Bush Senior didn't know who he was, to show him this is how we can get everyone out when we need to get them in other cases that he was working on. But good luck with a rock in your shoe in this biometrics, right? I mean, it's just gotten harder and harder. But I just met a guy, actually. It's not as hard as you think, and it's just, there's always a new mousetrap.
100%. Yeah, it's a chess game, and that's what we found with people overseas as well. We would have a tactic, they would watch our tactic and evolve. We would have to have a new tactic by watching their
But the thing, what I love,
evolution.
I do a lot of work with Dover Air Force Base, and I've spent a lot of time with the USO, have entertained our troops all across the globe. They've taken me to Kuwait when the war was winding down, to Oman, Qatar, Turkey, Cuba. I've done the Pacific Fleet. I love doing it. And when I talk to these guys that are there, and I've used this in a book too, it's the low-tech stuff that I love that the military uses. It's not the high-tech stuff. So I remember there was this one thing where we had all these, and I used this in a thriller a couple books ago, where we took all these computers that were all stolen by, I won't say which country, and they all got stolen from us. And we were all pissed, and we were all, annoyed. And then 6 months later, the country was using those computers and ripping them off, and all those computers went down dead, and immediately started sending everything back to us because it was a trap. And it's so simple, right? We wanted them to steal them. We took them, we sent them, they sent all the stuff back to us. You will never be able to outsmart that, because good luck. And the low tech
human nature.
It's human nature. Human nature is the ultimate tactic, and I love when we do that. And those are the things that, for me now, I know, I think when I started, I was always like, oh, you can do an eye scan or a thumb or a thing, and then I figured out, I did a book on how to fake fingerprints and how to make fingerprint gloves, how to do that. I've done them all, and I'm still to this moment more impressed by the ones that just go, you dumbass. That's it. I call it the you dumbass of it all.
Yeah, you could do all that, or you just take a train, buddy. Or you do other things. Yeah.
Right.
I want to pause for a moment and acknowledge a brand that's doing something that you don't see very often anymore. GhostBed didn't just sponsor an episode, they stepped up to support the entire Ironclad network. And that really matters. GhostBed is built by people who care deeply about the quality. It's a product-first company led by Mark Werner, who still shows up every day obsessed with doing things the right way. Their mattresses are all made in America, engineered with advanced cooling technology, breathable materials, and zero shortcuts. These are beds built for people who work hard and actually need real recovery at the end of the day. They have 3 different collections to choose from, and they've built an online sleep quiz so you can dial exactly in what works for you and your body. And behind it is all a real in-house team of sleep experts, never outsourced. They back it up too. A 101-night at-home sleep trial, free shipping, and free returns. Right now we have an exclusive offer for our listeners that beats any other discount out there. Go to ghostbed.com/changeagents and use the code CHANGEAGENTS for an extra 15% off site-wide. When you support them, you're not just buying a mattress. You're supporting the kind of companies that keep independent, high-stakes storytelling alive. Today's episode is brought to you by Norwood Sawmills. What we do at Ironclad doesn't happen by accident. It exists because a small number of brands choose to stand beside us, not just sponsor a show, but support the mission, the audience, and the standard we hold ourselves to. These are brands that believe in the same things that we do: craftsmanship, independence, and building something real that lasts. Norwood Sawmills is one of those brands. They believe in the people behind this network, the builders, the landowners, the doers, and the craftsmen who value control over their work and pride in how it's done. That alignment matters to us, and it's why we're proud to stand with them. Norwood Sawmills designs portable sawmills that give you the ability to make your own lumber on your land, on your timeline, without sacrificing quality or performance. For over 30 years, they've been building equipment that's engineered to last and designed to grow with you. Whether you're a serious DIY builder or a professional sawyer, if you care about quality, and if you care about independence, and if you are considering investing in your land, your projects, or your long-term capability, Norwood is worth your time. We encourage you to support the brands that support this network. Learn more, explore their portable sawmills, and talk directly with their team at norwoodsawmills.com. You mentioned the corridors and tunnels under the White House and Capitol, respectively. How do you, I have heard the rumors of these things too. How do you research something that clearly if they exist, the government is not going to want anybody to know about that. Is that a matter of knowing the right
some
people?
Some of that was because it was pre 9/11 is the honest truth. My buddy Vince Flynn and I, we used to talk about this. All the thriller writers, my buddy Brad Thor, we call each other back in the day. Vince and I used to call each other and be like, what did the Secret Service tell you? And I've been working with the Secret Service 25 years. I take their trust seriously. When they tell me don't print this, I've never printed it for 25 years. I never will. That's why they helped me for all these decades. But I remember it was pre 9/11. And you used to be able to get the blueprints of the White House for I think it was $8. You used to get it from the Park Service. You said $8.
That's not good operational security.
Of course not. It was $8. I have to this day. I have the blueprints of the White House because I was like, I want the blueprints of the White House, and they were like, oh yeah, just send us $8. We'll send them to you. I got them. God. It's unbelievable. It's a terrible, right? I mean, did you know that the map and the underground tunnels below the Capitol used to be in the congressional record? We used to print it in the back of the book. Free.
Oh, come on.
Everybody.
Oh,
they started pulling them out in 9/11. The 9/11 one, the craziest one, I've never told this story, but I'll tell it to you. Because I love you. This is crazy. 9/11 happens. And I'm trying to research the Capitol at that point. I was in the middle of a book about the Capitol.
Yeah.
And one of the historians off in the curator's office of the Capitol said, we're going to show you where the secret tunnels are below the Capitol. I said, great. And my wife had worked in the Capitol at the time, so I knew people there and had a good way in. And this is in the weeks after 9/11, when security at that point, you remember, was so high. That
as tight as it was ever going to get.
Ever going to get. And there's the way that the Capitol was built is, now we have these kind of modern ways and we figure out what, we can plan how to mesh old and new. But back then, the Capitol was just that main building in the middle with the dome. And then they put the House side and the Senate side that, they kind of blopped them on, but it was never a good plan. So there used to be air conditioning that used to come out, ducts that used to come out and used to open in the air. And so all these ducts were never worked on. They just built the buildings. So these old ducts exist below the Capitol. And I said to the curator of the Capitol, where do they go? He's like, want to find out? I'm like, you don't know? He's like, let's go find out. So I'm in a full suit. We used to go crawling through the tunnels. I'm crawling on my elbows in my suit. I put my tie in my backpack and I'm crawling through. And he goes, stop. I go, what? And he says, there's a sniffer up there. I'm like, what? I don't know what a sniffer is. And he says, it's a thing they just put in to sense any change in smell because of obviously everything that had happened on 9/11.
Yeah.
He says, if it gets a whiff of your, whether it's your cologne, your smell, your whatever, the entire Capitol is going to have an alarm and the building's going to empty because of us. And I'm like, I'm going to be on the front page of the newspaper. And I remember just going, let's go backwards now. And I just was like, this is, as a thriller writer, you want to make a good scene, but I do not want to be on the front page for right after 9/11 being the one who empties the Capitol in a moment of panic. So that was as close as I came to being like, maybe we shouldn't be doing this today.
Yeah, it's going to be real tough getting any agency support after that. After your, mugshot is leading in a Washington newspaper, it'll be a real tough one.
And it was purely for the curator was just like, I don't know, nobody knows because nobody's crawled down here. So we were going to Indiana Jones it. And for me, I think the real answer of why people will tell me this, two things. One, I always change the security protocols. I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you where the things are, but any security protocol I change. I don't care. I know what they are. Yeah. I change them. Two, whatever they tell me will tell you this. You can't print it, but it's only so you can understand this, which you can print. I always follow that. And that's why they tell me. Yeah. And I think, and this, that I think people are so tired in the government of watching, bad Hollywood movies and that are so lazy. They don't take 10 minutes to make a phone call to see, whatever it is, whatever that way that a thing is done, whether it's in the Secret Service, whether it's in, even in government, how it really works, that they're like, Brad, we know you get it right. Well, let's get it right.
Yeah. It takes years though, doing it the right way to earn that trust where they'll pick up the phone.
I mean, these relationships are, some of the most important and long lasting in my whole career.
Yeah. Out of all the research you've done and looking into secret places and, that are of national significance, is there anything that has surprised you the most? Like, whoa, just kind of put you back on your heels? Or was it all kind of flavors of what you expected it to be when you got towards the truth?
The things that in the beginning, it would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we do this. We're so smart to do this. And those were like and those are fun. But truthfully, like I probably would have given you that answer just to impress your listeners and say like, that's a cool thing. here's what really knocked me out of my socks, the most recent one. And it's silly and whatever, but I was in the National Archives, and I love the National Archives. And they took me to one of their vaults, these walk-in vaults where they eat stuff they don't put out in the public. And they open up this thin drawer and they give me some gloves, and they said, "Here, check this out." And it's an oath of service, a sworn oath that that George Washington took at the beginning of the Revolutionary War. It was, I solemnly swear to basically be loyal to these United States. We still have an oath. You've taken that oath. Anyone who enlists takes that oath. Yep. And when they first did them, they numbered them. So in the corner, it says 01. George Washington takes the first one. And they're pulling out a couple numbers, and I can't remember if it's number 6 now or 5 now. It's or a low number. But they hand me, let's say it's number 5. And it's signed by Benedict Arnold. And it's really the one that Benedict Arnold signed. He took that oath too. And I know it's so silly, but in that moment, I could see that, well, whether it's ink or whatever they call it, whatever he wrote with, and history in that moment was alive for me. And that's I know it's not the shocking, titillating thing, but it's that moment where this is a real person who had real, was pissed off and felt cheated and was small and had ego and those. And that's why things happen in the government, right? The government is forever us. And we do things not because we're twirling our mustache, like you said, or we have our laser cats and, and all that stuff, but stroking the cat like a Bond villain, but because of those very petty things, whether it's sex, whether it's money, whether it's power, whether it's we just feel like no one's telling us and giving us our due in Benedict Arnold's case. And that's what kind of knocks me out of my socks. I think the other thing, just being blunt honest, is Dover Air Force Base, the morticians that work there that deal with Dover. And I could not
do that job, man.
That job is usually, and everyone, let's just talk about it for a moment. Dover, as you know, everyone knows, even if you don't know the name of it, is where those flag-covered coffins, when a soldier's killed in action, that flag-covered coffin comes off the plane and everyone salutes. But it's not just that. It's when the space shuttle went down, all the astronauts, their bodies went to Dover. It's where on 9/11, all the Pentagon victims went to Dover. In Venezuela right now, all those CIA people that are out there, if something goes sideways, their bodies are coming to Dover. So Dover's a place filled with secrets. Those morticians there see what no one else sees, including the real names of who those people are when they're coming in, beyond those fake names they had going out. And this knocked me out of my socks too, is the morticians there will spend 12 hours rewiring someone's jaw, smoothing it over with clay, so a family can see their son one last time, rebuilding someone's hand so a mother could hold her son or daughter's hand one last time. And that's the best of us working on the best of us. And that was one of those things where, again, it's not the titillating thing, but the one of the guys who I met there would spend those 12 hours, he would not put in for overtime. He's a government employee, but he's like, no, this is I need to deal and show these fallen soldiers, show these fallen troops and these fallen service members the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And boy, do I respect that. It's why my last 3 books have been about that place, taking people inside it, because I'm just believe that that's how we should be as Americans, that we should show that respect and that dignity. And that's why my hero in the book has that job.
It is, as somebody who has seen the upstream where we have the ramp ceremonies overseas, where it's your friends, they're in those coffins. They arrive at Dover oftentimes in the most grotesque manners. And the fact that there are people there who are willing to put in that time and care and effort. So the family, like you said, because I've seen both sides of that, from the overseas ramp ceremonies all the way it cascades down to the funeral, largely where the people are from or where they're born or where they're going to be finally buried. And without that, I don't know if the families would get some of the closure that they need. And I am so thankful that those people sit in that breach in the middle. I could not do that job. Again, it's a job to a degree, but you also know what your job is, and you are faced with that and the mortality and the grotesque nature of war and the consequences of that. That is a special person.
Listen, the people, depending on where you are and what you're doing, are usually assigned there for 6 months to a year at the most, because you can't handle it. People don't handle it. The guy that I met with, one of my favorite sources there, who recently left, was there for like a decade. Can't imagine going. He was there from 9/11 until recently. more than a decade. Like, and I'm just like, how do you do and deal with that every day? And you go into these rooms. It's funny you said the word closure. The Viper, the opening quote of the book is a quote that says, a great military writer, um, who says, "I don't believe in closure. I'm not sure we ever really get over anything." Dale Meyerridge says it. And I love that quote. It was the last thing I put in the book, because when I heard it, I was like, it just hit me in the chest like a javelin. I was like, why is that hitting me so hard? And I realized, I read a lot of books after burying my dad, after burying my mom. And at the end of the book, there's I think we're going to go here, but it's worth talking about. There's a word at the end of the Viper called pentimento. I never heard the word in my life. Didn't know what it meant. But it's an art term for old paint. It's when old paint becomes so dry and brittle, it becomes transparent. You can see through it. So you can see actually the kind of pen lines and the early draft, the rough draft that the artist puts on the canvas in the early stages, filled with all the regrets and mistakes. A tree that's facing this way, they decide, yeah, that's composition is better facing the other way. And it made me realize, after spending all that time at Dover, that all of us in our lives have all these, we all have past versions of ourselves, these past versions of our lives. We are our own walking rough drafts, filled with regrets, filled with mistakes, but you can't make a masterpiece without them. And it finally made me realize, and again, I think it's why I kept going back to Dover to deal with the death of my dad, is that I think closure is overrated. I actually think that what we're supposed to do is just accept and love ourselves for who we are, our bad parts as much as our good parts. And I finally got in this book a little bit of forgiveness for my dad. My dad caused me a lot of pain during my life, but I finally got some forgiveness for him. And I think the reason I kept going back to Dover, I said I love their mission, but I think there was something for me that I was looking for. You said the word closure. I thought that was the right way to talk about it.
Yeah, people are complex.
People are that is the thing, is people, we want to make black and white thinking. Like, I'm a superhero guy. Like, I write Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. It's black and white as it gets. Good guys, bad guys, right? You know what it is. Military is good guys, bad guys. We love it. But man, people are complex. They really are. And sometimes there are bad people. We all know it, right? But people are complex.
I mean, the concepts of life can be black and white, but I tell you what, the execution of life is in the gray.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. That's the thing. It's really, and I know, what, one of the things I learned, and this knocked me out too, is when I was at Dover, when I first started researching it there, all the fallen service members that were coming in, it was from attacks, stepping on a mine, they were shot, kicking down a door, all the things that you would think in combat. But in the past few years, war's over. So that's not what's coming in there anymore. You know what's coming in there? Suicides. They've been coming the whole time. Do you know that you are 4 times, they told me, since 9/11, 4 times more likely to die by suicide in the military than in combat? It's over 30,000 members of the military now. 30,000 people, that's as far as it gets to run. So when I did the Viper, I was like, that's who I'm putting and featuring in the book this time. Because I want, and I hope that there are people listening right now to know you are not alone, that there is help out there. It is not just you. That was devastating to me to hear that. And now talk about the complexity of people, right? You have these people who are trying and want to do so much good. And boy, they are just feeling so bad right now. So please, if you're that one person listening, whether it's Wounded Warrior, there's so many great places. Just know there's help out there.
Yeah, I say it often. I think the worst position you can arrive in is thinking that you are dealing with something that either nobody else is or nobody else has. And I always pair that with, especially with combat veterans, if you touch war, it's going to touch you back. And that's natural. You should expect to be changed from your experiences. It doesn't mean you have to be destroyed by them, but you shouldn't expect to return to the original version of yourself, because I just don't think it's possible.
That's really wise. That's profound. I when I buried my mom and dad, I spent years thinking I got to get over it. I got to get over it. I've been years now. I got to get over it. And I realized I'm never getting over it. I don't want to get over it. Right? Because anyone who's lost someone who's, touches you in your soul, you never get over it. You do what you just said. You transform. You become someone different. You are a little bit stronger. You're a little bit weaker in other ways, but that's the choice you got. And what you said is profound.
Yeah, I always try to reframe it with veterans specifically of post-traumatic growth as opposed to just post-traumatic stress.
No,
because
I feel like that.
I feel like I am honestly a better version of myself because of my experiences overseas. I feel like I can love my children more deeply. I can have a greater appreciation for some things than others. And there are other aspects that fade over time. I mean, there are certainly issues with frustration and anger that I think can occur and can rise their head, but that you can deal with those. You can build yourself into a better version of yourself. War is equally the most ugly and vile thing I've ever been exposed to, but also the most beautiful,
Oh
which
yeah.
is
Well, that's what we were talking about
hard to
before.
explain.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
dad. Man, you're gonna turn this into free therapy, aren't you? Right. So I'll tell you this. So my dad was a complicated guy. My dad, when I was in college, I went to the University of Michigan. I go to register for classes in the senior year, and they say, "You're kicked out of school. No one paid your bills." What do you mean no one paid my bills? And they said, and as soon as they said it, I'm like, Dad, I knew what it was. And
Damn it,
so,
Dad.
I know. And so I go downstairs to the registrar. I, talk to him. She's like, listen, why don't we get you some loans right here? We'll get you some loans that are 1% loans. At least you can graduate on time. Thank you. Settle it. Strong ground is strong again. I graduate. I change my address at home. All my mail gets forwarded. And what gets forwarded to me is $40,000 of credit card debt. That I did not open, that my father, that's how he was getting me through college. You know, those ads that come to every college kid, hey, get a credit card.
Yep.
He signed up for all of them in my name. And that's how he was trying to pay for it, which is so dumb because a credit card is like a 22%, interest rate
If you're
instead
lucky,
of a 1%.
might be 25. Yeah.
Yeah, right. 20. I was given the average, right? Like, and so, yeah,
Yeah.
25, trust me, there were 25s. And I'm like, and they tell me that the only way out of it is I got to report my dad to the authorities. Because it's fraud, and that's the only way they'll get out. I'm like, I'm not ratting out my own father. Come on, man. So again, we talk to all the companies, make some deals, get them paid, whatever, take some of the interest out, calm it down again. But eventually, as you know, you get hit in the back of the head enough, you start looking over your shoulder. And here's the part of the story that I couldn't see. And that's what you just said. Is that my dad, when he was little, his father used to beat him up. He was a military guy, a boxer in World War II. And he used to punch my dad. And I know my dad used to jump in front of his younger brother to make sure his younger brother didn't take the hit. He used to jump in front of his mother so his mother didn't take the hit. My dad took it for him. And I didn't realize that that's what my dad was doing for me. He was trying to take the hit financially so that I didn't have to take it, so that I could be the first in my immediate family to go to a 4-year college and actually get out. And I couldn't see that, Andy, because I was so angry and so mad at all the pain and headache he caused me. And again, it's still so stupid. Why would you take a 22, 25% rate when you can have a 1%? But he didn't know better. He had no education, and that's all he could figure out. And the point of it simply being is, like you said, people are complex, and I could not see that. And I finally found, like, man, my dad was doing such a dumb thing because he was trying to do such a good thing. And again, not that everything he did was great and doesn't make him the best dad. I'm not delusional, but I think you got to kind of see the gray that you were just talking about.
Yeah. As I've gotten older in life too, I try to remember that for as easy as it is for me to point out the mistakes in others, it is also easy for others to point out the mistakes in me.
I'll second that. I'll second that and say anything you hate about someone else. Anything you hate about someone else is something you hate about yourself.
Yeah.
Take
it's
a
in
look.
all of
you
it.
spot it, you got it. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And you're going to say, no. Think about it. Actually think about it. And you're like, oh, I do hate that. And that's the thing is, I always say, like, when I cut someone off, I'm always like, sorry. So I just needed to get in. When someone cuts me off, I'm like, I will go to blow,
Totally.
and like, we just will see our version of events, however it is. And I think for me,
exact conversation with my son, taking him to work. People they drive like assholes. Guess what? I can drive like an asshole too. And somebody will cut us off or do something he doesn't like. And he is just going through the Rolodex of words that I taught him accidentally when he was younger.
Of course.
That he has mastery of. And I'm like, hey, bud, we don't know what's going on in that person's life. Our life wasn't impacted negatively. Was it inconvenient? Perhaps. But you know what? Let's just take a breath. Maybe whatever it is they have going on is more important than what we have going on right now. And at the end of the day, I bet they didn't mean to anyway.
Well, the one that I love that, and I liken it, my kid once when he was playing baseball, 1 in a million. My family's good at 1 in a millions, right? We do 1 in a million for good and 1 in a million. My career is a 1 in a million. Like a guy from, uneducated parents should never have even gotten out of my old bad neighborhood. And we get it for bad too. And my son goes to hit the ball, and the ball ricochets off the bat into his eye, blood pouring everywhere. I grab him, pick him, throw him in the car. They said the ambulance will not be here fast enough. You're better driving yourself. I'm not waiting for the ambulance. And they said you can pick the better hospital because of the neighborhood we were in. And I drive like, pick your action movie. Let's go. I'm in.
Yeah, totally. It's go time.
And I'm driving like a maniac, side of the road I do not care. My kid is bleeding out of his face. And all I try, and I am no angel. When people cut me off now, I still get pissed as could be. But I try on my better angel days. On my better angel days, I tell myself their kid is bleeding from the face today. That's it. Yep. That's what I need. And I think this is a perfect story to end with. I didn't even think about it. You remind me of one of my favorites, which I never get to tell. So I'm in an airport bathroom, at the airport, and standing there and go to wash my hands when I'm done. And this guy who's right next to me turns around, and one of the janitors there was cleaning stuff up. And the guy next to me says to the janitor, "Thanks for keeping it clean." I just was like touched by that. I'm like, what a freaking nice thing to say to the janitor. And you know that every time ever since that I've ever been in a public restroom in any place, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's an airport, I always thank you for keeping it clean. It's been 20 years now, and I'm still saying I will never know who that person is, but for 20 years now, that person, that stranger out there, in that moment of kindness had more impact on me than people I interact with every single day, than any politician, than anyone that's famous. And I think we remember that, man, and that's how you make the world a better place. I know that's a completely naive idea, but it's an idea worth fighting for.
It might be naive if you try to battle it against what we were talking about at the beginning, the algorithm and the negativity, and if it bleeds, it leads. And we now have access to every catastrophe that happens at Earth. Not that they're happening more statistically frequently. We can just see everything, and we know about earthquakes and deaths and fire and famine and all these things. But I don't think it's insignificant. I've had those same experiences, and I bet you along the way of you doing that, you've had that same impact on other people's lives as well. And that's the butterfly effect or dropping the pebble.
Well, the one that mattered to me is my son does it now. I didn't tell him to.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, I'll take that. If I get one, it's one, 100%. Right? That's the thing.
Brad, what do you want to leave people with? I want to be respectful of your time.
You know what? I'm going to say, here's what I leave people with. So I sit here today because of the kindness of a teacher that took a chance on me, because of people that took a chance on me, because my parents took that chance on me. And you know what's been hitting me lately is the power of a thank you. So I had a teacher who changed my life telling me I could write. Everyone can write. So no, you know what you're doing. She tried to put me in the honors class. I had some sort of conflict. She said, here's what we're going to do. You're going to sit in the corner for the entire year. Ignore everything I do on the blackboard. Ignore every homework assignment I give. You're going to do the honors work instead. You'll thank me later. And a decade later, when my first novel came out, I went to her classroom. I knocked on the door. She said, "Can I help you?" I said, "My name is Brad Meltzer. I wrote this book and it's for you." And she starts crying. I'm like, "Why are you crying?" She's like, "I was going to retire this year because I didn't think I was having an impact anymore." I said, "Are you kidding me? You got 30 students. We got one teacher." And I encourage you, if you're listening right now, and you and I had like a really, I love this conversation because it's been actually like about something bigger than selling books or doing things or, even conspiracies. But as that thank you for her, she's lasted 12 more years as a teacher because of that one thank you. So I want everyone, if you're listening right now, here's what I'd love to leave you with. I want you to buy the Viper. That's great, blah, blah, blah. Publicists make me say that. But here's what I really want is think of that person who's your teacher. Think of that person who's your mentor, that person, whether it was in basic training or out in the field or, somewhere in some combat zone, that person who took their first chance on you, that person who told you were good at something for the first time. And I want you to thank them. That's it. That's all I ask. Call them up, thank them. If they're gone, thank their kids. People still call me once a year and they tell me some story about my dad, my mom, and I get that one new thing I never get ever anymore, which is a new moment with my parents. So go say thank you. I promise you. And text me, go on Instagram, tell me what it is, but I promise you, you won't believe what comes from it.
That might be the best ending of an episode ever, actually.
You brought it. You created it. You watered it. You tended the garden, man. I didn't think we were going this way. I was like, well, let's talk about some aliens. And we were just like,
I never know where I'm going, man.
No, but what I love is you and I approach the universe the same way, right? Yeah. It's trying to lead forward as an example. I think that's important. And I love that ending.
I mean, you look at all the things in life you don't have control over, and you could talk yourself into a place of paralysis. I'd rather try to take ultimate control over the things that I can, which is just myself and the impact of the world around me that I can see with my own eyes.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Brad.
Appreciate it. Thanks, brother.
Yep. Have a great day. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you like the interview and you want to check out Brad's latest book called The Viper, you can find it anywhere that books are sold. Thank you again for listening to Change Agents, an Ironclad original presented by Firecracker Farm. We'll be back next week with an all-new episode and an all-new guest.